Hi, I'm Céline, a French architect and a trainer. Today it's a special video. I'm gonna interview Brett Seriani. He's an architect and engineer coming from Australia. He will talk about his career, he'll talk about social media, and if you stay until the end, he will give advices to young architects. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and to turn on the little bell. It's really important. If you don't do that, you will miss all the next videos and the next interviews. So let's start. Hi Brett, thanks for accepting this interview. To start, can you introduce yourself and your company?
Yeah, my name's Brett Seriani, and I'm the owner of Seriani Designs.
Okay, and what does Seriani Design do?
Yeah, so small practice, just operating as a sole trader currently, and I focus in on architectural design as well as structural engineering, but I also prescribe in with passive house philosophy and methodology within the designs as well. So. Yeah.
Okay, so when and why did you decide to become an architect and engineer?
Yeah, so I was probably I was about 6 years old, pretty young when I made the decision. So I saw a set of blueprints from my father. He was developing an apartment block and a townhouse development actually in Canada, and I was young. I saw the blueprints sitting on his desk, and I just fell in love just looking at them and reading through them. And he showed me what they were and how it all worked and that sort of thing. And I got hooked at that point. So ever since that age, I always wanted to be an architect. And went through, did schooling, did architecture, and then later went back to school and did structural engineering as another degree of mine. So
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
So you have recently obtained a passive house designer certification. So
yeah,
what did this training bring to you? And now what is your vision, of sustainable architecture?
yeah. So I got sort of introduced to the whole passive house concept about a year and a half ago. There was a couple individuals at one of the actual architecture institutes here locally in Melbourne. They were giving a presentation with regards to what passive house is. So it was a CPD session, and I went in, took a sort of a attendance in with it, and everything that was presented on it made sense to me. It was the bridge between architecture and engineering through building physics. It is a proven method that provides healthy, comfortable, economical, sustainable homes. It's it was a bridge for me that I could see between how to responsibly design buildings, as well as from an architectural perspective, as well as from the structural perspective as well, because of the material sciences and from passive house is very associated, and it's a natural sort of fit from an engineering perspective in order to try and do those things, because you're looking in at your thermals and the material properties and that sort of thing within the passive house, but also you do that naturally as a structural engineer. So it was, yeah, it was good. So I'm actually quite enjoying it, and it's a good community that is a global one as well. It's picking up now in Australia. It hasn't been as prevalent, but it now has a good following, and it's really picking up, which is nice to see. So a lot of people start thinking about it a lot more.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what are the career realization you are the most proud of in your career?
Yeah. There's a few projects that I'm really been proud of. One of them actually was an engineering project. It was a public works area. It was a burnt down pier out in South Richmond in Vancouver, BC. And a couple fishermen, they were out there fishing on it, and they lit an oil drum on fire, and they burnt down this entire pier. But I got engaged in with the company I was with at the time in order to redo the engineering and the rehabilitation and basically the reconstruction of this pier, which now you can go out and you can see it and people are enjoying. It's a good public open space, good timber design. It's just a nice community sort of space for gathering, and that's probably one of the best ones that I like. There's also more of an engineering one as well, but there's a network and designs that I did over in the South Pacific Islands, which was actually quite fun. And then there's a house that I was in design stage all the way up to the CD set out here in Melbourne, and it was a beautiful design. Didn't go to construction, but it was a beautiful design though.
Oh,
Very
it's
well thought out
unfortunate.
later. Yeah. So
Sometimes
yeah,
that it happens, yes. And
yeah, it
so,
does.
what major difficulties did you meet in your company, and how did you resolve them?
Yeah. Um, so the first one that I had when I was actually practicing in Vancouver, back in the mid 90s. And during the time, I think there was a bit of a downturn with regards to the actual building industry, and not a lot of things actually were going on from a design and actually new build perspective. So honestly, the best way I did it is that I went, okay, well, I'm going to retrain myself and overcome a barrier of not being able to do something within inside of my business. So that's when I made the decision going in from architecture, and I went then and did structural engineering as my other studies. So that was one of the hurdles. Also, from a business perspective here in Australia, understanding the differences between the codes in which I'm used to in North America versus the ones actually here. There, you would figure that they would be somewhat similar on certain aspects, but they're quite different. So the best way of overcoming that for me is that I've just tackled in, got into projects, started reading the code on the weekends, standards, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's not, the most fun thing, but
I know.
sometimes you just got to do it. Yeah.
And in France, we are really proud of our rules, and there are a lot. So I know
Yeah.
how much it can be difficult to learn all these things.
Yeah.
Yes. So now let's talk about social media. You are really active on social media, especially on Facebook. And those social media help you getting clients. And would you recommend the young architects to do the same, to use social
Yeah.
media?
Yeah. So the one thing that I've learned about from the years of doing business, the your contact face with your customers has changed dramatically over time. For I guess the architecture and engineering profession, there's a lot of referral aspects where you get repeat clients or referrals from your existing clients, and that's generally been the traditional sort of format, which has always been good. But it limits you with regards to that pool of resources, what you can actually try to go off and do. Now, the one thing that I've been following with regards to the social media sort of phenomenon that's been going on for the past decades or so, is that it's an open forum to be able to get out and communicate to whomever globally. So the likes of Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and Pinterest and all these other ones that are associated around a design or business to business or business to consumer sort of model, it's a great medium in order to actually getting in contact with people. Facebook groups and pages that are associated in with that sort of thing. For myself, it's around architecture, structural design, as well as passive house, and that's a fairly close knit sort of industry, if you will. But you get a lot of referrals in from other people in with inside of that, and people will go in. They'll start doing investigations, or they want to learn more about passive house, or they want to need help with some structural engineering on something. So it's a form in which anybody can access. So at that point, it does work. I would say probably 50-60% of the business that I've been
Yes,
generating as of late is
that's
coming
quite
around from there.
important. Yes.
Yeah. The other portions of it has been referrals in from other architects,
Yeah.
and for my engineering services. You know, they've got a building design that they're working on. They need to look at foundations, or they don't want to try and help out with eliminating thermal bridges, or they need to optimize the actual structural solution for it. And they'll bring me in on the integrated team. So it's a little bit of a mix on certain
Yes.
things. But yeah, it's good. So for people thinking about it going forward, don't underestimate the power of social media. If they can follow or even search out an individual by the name of Gary Vaynerchuk or Gary V.
Yeah,
Um,
yes.
Gary, yeah.
I know him. Yeah.
Um, he plugs out. He says, excuse me. He says that he tries to publish no less than 100 and some odd media feeds a day out into all the different platforms that he's on. Obviously, I'm not trying to do that, but the one thing that people have to understand is that with social media now, it's permanent. Where you had things in print and in a few other sort of aspects where it got recycled and didn't get sort of a broad distribution. Where you look at social media now, once it's online, it's always online, regardless of what people think, right? Um, the videos that you do, the photos that you take, and all that sort of stuff, it's permanent.
Yeah.
So getting your voice and your vision and your services and what you do out on social media and the internet is critical within any business going forward now.
Okay. And so to finish, what advices would you give to first a young architect who has graduated and start his career, and two, a young architect who wants to create a company?
Yeah, okay. So first thing, when you first graduate, um, understand that it's only the first step. Okay.
Yeah.
When once you graduate, you're a junior, regardless of anywhere where you go from practice. You need to get mentored into a lot of things. And along with that, they need to take that positive attitude of I'm going to be continually learning for the rest of my career and the rest of my life. That's something that as a design professional, something that we have to take on board. That regardless of whenever you finished your graduate or postgraduate degrees, that you accept the fact that you are always going to be learning something new. The way software has been changing in the
Yes,
past,
yes.
ever since I started, like I started, doing design, and CAD didn't barely exist. We did it all manually, you know. And yeah, so learning all the new software packages that are out there and BIM and the rest of that sort of aspects, make sure that you fully understand that, right? Plus, don't be afraid to learn other aspects of the business, all right? Which kind of goes into the next question as well. You have to learn things about engineers. You have to learn about construction. You have to learn about business, marketing, advertising. All those certain things are essential for running any business, regardless of whatever the services is that you're doing. So if you are an aspiring young design professional and you want to open up your own practice, understand that as the owner of the business, about 70 to 80% of your time is not doing what you went to school for. It's running the business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Sometimes this can be hard. Yes.
Sometimes it's hard, right? So, but along with that, you have to make sure that if you're going to go out and venture on your own, get a good support network around you. And that support network can be anyone, your family, your friends, the suppliers, the local contractors, the other local business owners, the person at the cafe or at the restaurants, they're all running a business.
Mm.
So it's understanding that aspect. It's just that your services are around design. So understand that and make sure that, if you're going to do it, go off and do it. But I hate to say it, is that most businesses fail. Roughly 80% fail up front, always. And it's just a realism within regards to many industries. Not a lot of businesses survive past 3 years. So the difference is that accept that as a fact that most businesses are going to fail. And when you do, or if you do, pick yourself back up, start over again, and keep
Mm.
going. When you think of it, you got into design or architecture for a reason. You're there for the passion of it. You actually love buildings. You love design. You love art. You love calculations and mathematics if you're an engineer. Okay. That's your core principles. Never lose sight of that. All right. Those are the things that will keep you going and keeping you motivated to continue on within your business. Right? At those times when it's difficult, where you're scratching your head and you don't know what to do, right? Hang on to those initial visions and those missions of yourself, why you're doing this, right? And if you can get through those difficult times with that good support network around you, you'll survive, right? But don't ever be afraid of failing, right?
Mm.
Everybody fails. It's how you pick yourself up and get moving afterwards that really makes a difference. So yeah,
Okay, so
yeah,
this interview is finished. Thank you very much, Brett.
no
If
worries.
someone wants to contact you, you have your Facebook page, you have a website, you are also on LinkedIn,
Yeah,
on Instagram. I will put all the
LinkedIn,
links in the
Instagram.
description.
Yeah. So
So,
so you
okay,
can get a hold of me on Facebook, LinkedIn, obviously the webpage, Instagram, Pinterest, on
okay,
house.com.au. There's quite a few ways for different social medias where my business profile is up on there as well.
okay. Super.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty.